Okay, I seriously cannot take it anymore. What is wrong with the United States healthcare system? The health insurance that we have costs 40% of our income. And it is the best health insurance, but it actually sucks. My daughter had an outpatient surgery, thankfully, and we just got a bill in the mail for over $4,000. They already took all my money. How do they expect me to pay that? Okay, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
This person was a medical biller for 30 years. They're saying it's so much more horrible than people know that we should demand change. Now, I don't know what this person's referring to, but I would imagine it's something about price transparency, where hospitals make up ridiculous and fake surcharges to try to make up for lost profit elsewhere, and also to just profit off of patients with very little transparency, very little accountability to increase their short-term profitability. It's probably what she's talking about. This person's talking about a little bit.
I don't usually get like political on here or rant about like the current state of the economy or anything like that, because it's just a whole can of worms I don't want to open up. But I had an endoscopy last December, like over 6 months ago at this point, because I have gastritis. And I paid my upfront deposit for the procedure and everything. And every month since then, I've received bills in the mail, and I had met my deductible for my insurance at the end of last year. So why am I still paying for this? And the most ridiculous thing, so my husband had cancer last year, and tax season this year, we were adding up everything that we paid so that we could take it out of our taxes. And for all of his chemo treatments and everything, it was $500,000. $500,000. We had to pay probably about $10,000 of that out of pocket, which is a shit ton. And he's still getting bills in the mail for it now. And I don't understand that either. We have good insurance. He works for a good company, and we have like a good insurance plan. So why does it cost me like $181 to get lab work done that should be covered by my insurance? I just don't understand, and it makes me so mad. Medical bills are one of the things that make me so mad. My cat is mad with me. So yeah, insurance is a scam.
Today's unsolicited life hack is going to be about medical bills, and the life hack is going to be brought to you by a very random debt collector who gave me one of the most useful tips I've ever been given when it comes to paying medical bills. But a short backstory on how a debt collector came to be giving me advice. I gave birth to my second child, and then I got the medical bill, and I was like, wow, I know that having kids in the United States is expensive because I've had one of them, so even with insurance it was several $1,000s, but this seems like several thousand too many dollars. So I called the hospital and was like, hey, can you send me an itemized bill for this medical bill, because it's throwing me off. It seems high, so I'd like to see an itemized list before I pay it. It had everything I expected. That's stupid, like $40 for a Tylenol and crap like that, but it also had on there for close to $3,000 that I had had an epidural, and I can assure you I did not have an epidural with my second child. I assume this is going to be an easy fix, so I call billing and I'm like, hey, there's a charge on here for an epidural. I did not have an epidural, so can we get that removed? Turns out was not an easy fix, and I did 10 rounds with them, and they were insistent that I did in fact have an epidural, and that they could see it on my, like, what they were looking at, that I received an epidural, so I was getting billed for an epidural and I had to pay for it. I clearly was not going to pay for it because I did not in fact receive an epidural, so I paid the difference of that amount, and then while going 10 rounds with them, assuming that because I was communicating with them and we were trying to figure this out, that like it would just sit there until I paid it, they sent it to debt collections. I'd like to clarify the medical side of my experience in this hospital. Absolutely amazing. Had the best experience having both babies there. I would walk through fire for the midwife that delivered JP when I gave birth naturally without an epidural because she was amazing and a godsend. But anyway, billing department was having a very different experience. I had never had anything go to debt collections. I didn't know how that worked. I pay all my bills on time, but I get this random phone call from this very nice woman who's like, hey, I'm with whatever debt collection agency, you owe this amount, you have to pay it today. And I freaked out a little bit and then was like, whoa. And then I told her, I've been going back and forth with the hospital because they're charging me for an epidural and I did not receive an epidural. She was very kind. She immediately said, oh, this happens all the time. They mess up stuff all the time. Told me she was going, somehow there's a process on her end where she could like send it back to them so it wasn't gonna like mess up my credit, which is what I was freaking out about. And she told me, call them and tell them that you want to request your full medical record because now you are concerned about what else has been erroneously recorded in your medical record if they have it recorded that you received care that you didn't. Y'all, when I tell you that solved my problem so freaking fast, that's literally all I did. I called and said, I'm being charged for something that I didn't receive, so now I'm very concerned about what is recorded in my medical record that is wrong. They removed the charge within hours because I have an online record. Like, I logged into it and I could see everything I received and it wasn't there, which I tried telling them, and they insisted in billing, like, no, this is on there. We have to charge you for it. I'm also certain the billing people are very nice and we're just doing their jobs, but it was a very like W2F situation. But I have now used that multiple times and it works every single time. So if you are ever being charged for something that you know is wrong or you shouldn't be charged for, because apparently this happens, like, I'm sure these things happen. There's a lot of moving parts. Anyway, you just call and say you're concerned about what else is wrong in your medical record and request to see it, and suddenly the charges go away.
Okay, rant session, because I'm so mad about this current status of our healthcare system. I have good insurance. I pay good money for good insurance in this amazing country that we live in. And yet all of this are my medical bills just from the last 2 months. So last time I was at the university hospital, I was there for 7 hours and it was $54,000, not counting the anesthesiologist, which was another $1,200, $1,400, and the imaging, which was like $2,500. So like $60,000 for the 6 or 7 hours that I was there. It's just absolutely ridiculous. My feed, when I have my feeding tube, my formula cost $3,800 for 1 month of supplies of formula. I just can't. I cannot. And I'm calling these places and the insurance companies are saying they paid it and the companies are saying that they don't pay it. And then I had a company tell me that my claim isn't, I asked for an itemized bill. And they're like, we don't have that. And I was like, yes, you do. Like, you're asking me for $3,700 from a visit in February. And they're like, nope, we don't have any visits after January. Then how do I have a bill from you? You're asking me for money and you're, it's horrible. That is my rant. It's horrible. I hate it. I know everybody deals with it when it comes to insurance and, just the financial struggle. It's, again, just something else where chronic illness just sucks. The physical, the mental, and then here, like the financial, ugh. Bleh.
All right, so we were ranting about medical stuff the other way. I got a bill in the mail. Lovely. My son broke his collarbone, went to urgent care, and they gave us a sling. And they just said, oh, sign here. This is just so we can bill your insurance. Perfect. Thought nothing of it. Definitely should think something of that. So I got the bill finally, and it was $105 for this $19 sling that I could have gotten at Target or CVS or something like that, because I looked it up. And that was not what they charged the insurance. They charged the insurance $200. The insurance said, oh, well, this is something, so it goes towards your deductible. I'm like, well, I never hit my deductible, so great. So after fighting, I've had to pay $100 for this thing. So, PSA, if you're getting a sling from an urgent care, it's probably going to cost you a bunch. So, if you can just go down the street, go to a drugstore, you can get a sling for $20, $25. So, my question is, if you've made it this far, what is the most ridiculous amount of money that you've been charged for something? I've heard people getting charged like, $500 for Tylenol at the emergency room or something. So, let me know.
I'm here to rant. So last February, my son spent about 69 days in the neonatal intensive care unit. He was born on February 24th. So 24th was a Friday and the 28th was the last day of February. That was a Tuesday. I was discharged from the hospital, a different hospital, that Sunday. So there were about 2 days in February that Social Security claims that I should have called and filed an application for benefits so he could get health insurance. My son had a social worker or a caseworker when he was in the NICU, who I got in touch with probably a week or so after he was born. So that puts us in the month of March. And she informed me that we could try applying for SSI and get Medicaid subsequently through that. I filed an application ASAP. It was March 10th, I believe. And basically he was deemed eligible because of all of his disabilities. And we got the biggest blessing in the world. Several $100,000 of medical expenses ended up being covered. So thank you for that. However, the dates of February 24th through February 28th are not covered. So we are looking at $16,000 in medical bills that we still owe. I understand it could be much worse. I'm grateful for our situation. I'm grateful for everything the hospital did and for getting our baby home. But I feel like I'm drowning and nobody will listen to me. And I have been fighting with them since November to try to get those dates covered. They claim that I should have called within those days of February. And I should have known to call, but obviously I didn't. I didn't even know SSI and all that was an option until I met with his social worker, which again, of course I wouldn't have met with her until March because there was 2 days, the 27th and the 28th, that she could have come and I guess told me, but I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, I was still recovering from a C-section. My son was halfway dead. He was in such bad shape. I don't know why they can't look at things on a case-to-case basis, but I pleaded with them. I told them how absurd that sounded, and they said that there's nothing they can do. I think at the end of the day, this frustration and these emotions are more from what I've been put through since November trying to get this handled. It seemed like a pretty simple answer, and that was no, we can't backdate it. But I've been led to believe that this would be covered since November and to not make payments on my medical bills. And now, since we haven't been making payments, it's going to go to collections. I mean, $16,000. I don't know how we're going to do it. Anyways, that's my rant. Healthcare in America is great in a lot of ways, but the cost of it is absolutely absurd, and they don't care. They don't care. They don't care about your situation. They don't care how medically challenged your baby is. It's just, they want money.
As I sit here negotiating medical bills, one common thing that I see from collections agencies is that they try to intimidate the patient by telling them how badly these bills are going to affect their credit scores. Now, medical bills can affect your credit, yes, but let me give you the newest regulations that just went into effect. Starting this month, collections agencies now have to wait 1 full year before they can report your medical debt to the credit bureaus. Before, it was 6 months, but now it's a year. That gives you a little bit more time to work out your debt. Okay, next, and very important, even if your debt goes past the year mark and hits your credit report, as soon as you pay that debt off, it's going to be wiped off your credit report with no bad marks. Before, medical debts could affect your credit for up to 7 years, even if you paid them off. But now, as long as you pay that debt off, it'll drop off your credit report. And last, starting in January of 2023, any medical bills under $500 that are unpaid will not affect your credit score.
Dr. Robin here, and I want to tell you a story about something that just happened to me that I am super annoyed about, and I want to make sure that this does not happen to you and that you know your rights. January 1st, 2022, the No Surprises Act became effective across the United States, including in my state in Texas. Now, this is meant to protect consumers who need health care but don't have insurance coverage or have inadequate health insurance coverage and are going to be paying significant out-of-pocket expenses. Now, what this law requires is that the prices that the patient is to pay will be transparent, and the hospital, the doctor, anyone you come in contact is required to provide a good faith estimate of about how much you're going to owe. Now, despite the fact that I work in healthcare, I cannot get health insurance. I'm a self-employed physician, and without being affiliated with a big company, it's very difficult to get health insurance. So I have a catastrophic plan that covers devastating emergencies, but for the majority of my healthcare, I just pay out of pocket. So for the purposes of this story, I basically don't have insurance, or I don't have insurance that's going to cover anything that I need to get done on a regular basis. Now, because I know the system, I know this law. You need to know it too. If you don't know it, if you know anyone who doesn't know it, forward this video to them. Patients are protected from surprise medical billing. The healthcare providers are required to provide you with a good faith estimate. Now, this includes the hospital, the doctor, the radiology services, the pathology services, the anesthesia services. They all need to provide you a good faith estimate. But what you also need to know is that you will have to ask for it. No one will volunteer this. You will have to ask for it, but it is your right to get it, and they need to provide it to you at least 1 day in advance of whatever procedure, whatever visit you're gonna have. And the law states, at least in Texas, it's different state to state, but in Texas, the law states that if the actual healthcare service provided is at least $400 higher than the estimate you gave you, you can file a complaint and you can challenge that billing. And should you need that, Texas Department of Insurance, tdi.texas.gov, they'll help you out with your medical bill should you need to file that claim. Or if you're gonna forget, just Google No Surprises Act Texas and this will come up. So here's what happened to me. I had to have a procedure done about a month ago. I know my rights, so I asked for a good faith estimate from the hospital, from the radiologist, from the pathologist, because I knew I was going to get bills from all three of those. Those are all three separate entities, the hospital and then the doctors that did the radiology, the doctors that did the pathology. And now my radiologist was delightful. She deserves all the money in the world. I would pay her anything, but I knew that this bill for $5,000 that I got was not going to her. It's going to the private equity company that owns her group. Now that's funny because my good faith estimate says $200. So I call the number on the bill, and I know that oftentimes if you call, you tell them, oh, I'm cash pay, can I have a cash pay discount? They'll give it to you. But today I call, and now just keep in mind again that this doctor, who is wonderful, works for a private equity company. Now, whoever answers the phone clearly doesn't live in the United States. She's just doing her job. I begrudge none of them anything. But I say, hey, I got this bill for $4,558, and I have a good faith estimate that said this was only going to cost $200. So she asked, can she put me on a hold? Sure. She says that one of the procedures does have a cash pay discount. It goes from $300 to $45. Great. Okay. But another procedure that costs $3,215 doesn't have a cash pay discount. And the second one of $1,045 does not have a cash pay discount. And I say, well, I have here a written good faith estimate that says it was going to cost $200. And I understand we had to do a second procedure, so it's going to be a little bit more than that, but we are not speaking the same language here. Can I place you on another brief hold? Sure. So she goes and looks for the code and then comes back and says, well, I talked to my supervisor, talked to everybody. We can give you 50% off. And I'm pretty good at math. And I said, well, so it's going from 4,500 to whatever, 2,250. That's really not within the range of the $200 estimate that I asked for. She says, okay, hold on, I gotta go check the codes. Let me go check the codes again. So I stay on another brief hold. She comes back. Well, we can discount it a little bit more than that, maybe 60%. And I again say, let me just do that math. I total it up and I say, we are still not within the, anywhere close to close to $200. And even with a $400 wiggle room, we're still thousands of dollars over. Okay. Let me go check the codes again. I'm gonna check one more time, place you on a brief hold. And by brief, it's like a few minutes every time. That's fine. I love to just waste my day on the phone. So I say, sure, I got all day. Let's do this. So she comes back and says, okay, we can give you 80% off. I say, that's still not within the good math of $400 over your good faith estimate. She says, well, let me go check the codes again. And I say, okay, well, please know that if you cannot get within $400 of the good faith estimate, then I will be filing a report with the Texas Department of Insurance, because this is the law, and there will be an investigation. You know, it will go through finances, etc. So please take that information to whoever you're speaking with about what's allowed and what discounts are allowed. Please take that information to them and let them know that that's what's happening while you're trying to find the codes, okay? And what do you know? She came back and said, oh, I did find the codes, and we do actually have a cash pay discount. And so the procedure that was going to be $3,200, it's actually only going to be $250, which is what I was quoted in the good faith estimate. And it turns out that the other procedure, it does have a cash pay price too. She just couldn't find it the first 6 times she checked, but she found it now. And now that one's only going to be $125, and the third one was going to be $45. They do have a cash pay price for that. So in the end, I only paid $420 on a $4,500 bill. But that was because I had to get feisty. I was polite, but I let them know that, you know, I will be following the law, and I will be filing a complaint that you're not following the law if you can't do better than that. And I'm not kidding, I got put on a billion holds while they checked the codes, and they had to talk to someone and check to someone. And what do you know? They came back, and now $400, my bill is totally clear. And I was able to get away with this because I know the law. You need to know it too. You do not have to pay for a routine procedure where there is a known cost. You have to get a written good faith estimate, and the price has to be within $400 of the good faith estimate that you were given. And if not, it is going against the No Surprises Act law, and you can report it and dispute the charges. One more time, you can just Google Texas No Surprises Act. You'll get a couple links that will hook you up to any of these websites, but it's the Texas Department of Insurance, tdi.tex.gov, where you can file these kinds of reports. But I will tell you, if you don't have a written good faith estimate that's dated and your bills, they won't be able to file a claim. It won't matter. So get a written good faith estimate and make sure people stick to it.